Actually, I did one of these webinars last month or just over a month ago, which was kind of part one, intro to nervous systems, and you can find it on YouTube if you didn't see it. And this is really part two, going a little bit deeper or a little bit more into some of the aspects of nervous systems. This one's called Why We Get Stuck in Stress and How Horses Guide Us to Return. So I'm going to share my screen. This picture here, this is Cosmo with Sita there. It's really just a moment to pause and to invite you to transport yourself here, sitting in the grass watching the slideshow for a moment. This is on the hill for those of you who've been here. This kind of a scene looks familiar, and those of you who haven't yet, then this is a peaceful horse experience with a German Shepherd guarding. But the message is really that this presentation is intended to help you perhaps gain some more awareness, understand yourself a little differently, get to know us here a little bit more about Tula Vida, or reconnect in with some of the experiences that you might have had if you've been here already. So you don't need to remember everything, hold on to everything. Something might stick out for you, and that's enough. One small thing, because sometimes if you're like me, we get, take notes, I have to remember it all, I'm going to remember nothing. Maybe think of one small thing that might stay with you from this presentation today. So brief introduction for those of you who don't know me yet. This is Tula Vida Ranch. This is where we are. And for those of you who just joined, my technology isn't working very well, which is why we have the slideshow in this slightly different format that isn't ideal, but we're working with it. So this is Tula Vida Ranch. I'm Sally, and together with my partner Eric in the background behind us, we live here on 85 acres with 5 dogs and 17 rescue horses, offering horse experiences. And everything that we do is really centered around being part of nature, having experiences with horses, with the idea of slowing down, tuning in with your nervous system, allowing yourself to let go of some stress, really be present, and seeing what awareness or insights might come up for you in that different pace, reconnecting to yourself essentially through horses, nature, and experiences. And today, the theme is really to, as I said, last month we did part one, really a basic guide to nervous system and horses. You can find it on YouTube. And today is thinking about your own unique system. We all have a unique nervous system. I talk a lot about nervous systems, and we'll get into why that's important. But my nervous system is different to your nervous systems because everybody's is unique, and what works for some people doesn't work for other people. I find that helpful to not judge my own system or expect it to be able to do or feel or be a certain way. Mine's unique. So the goal then becomes, how do I get to know and befriend my own nervous system so that I can build trust and connection with myself and work with myself to move myself forward in a positive way that I might want to move forwards. There's something in the chat. I'm just going to have a look. Oh, Alicia says I can totally relate. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. So here's a video, and I'm going to press play and hold my breath and my... Yeah, it's not going to play in this format, is it? I feared as much. Oh, maybe it is. Let's see. So watch this. Enjoy. So I'm going to come back to this. This is Rhea and Sita and Fish having a little interaction here, just showing it to you for the first time to give you a little smile maybe, and we'll come back to it in the context of nervous systems in a moment. But really the basics on nervous systems, and I went into it a little bit more in the last part of this presentation, but we have one and we don't get taught it in school, unfortunately, or probably we do, but not in this context. So your body has an internal response system, and you are constantly scanning unconsciously, sometimes subconsciously, sometimes consciously, and responding to what's happening around you. So your nervous system's job is to keep you alive, to detect the threat, to decide if it's safe or not, and to help you survive that moment, and also to adapt to survive future moments, and to help you connect. When is it safe? When is it not? When is it going to support me? When is it not? And to help me rest and recover and sleep and digest my food. My nervous system is scanning for that, and it gets designed based on the experiences that I've had. So my hardware gets put together to give me certain responses based on the experiences that I've had in the past. So then I'm there with my hardware, and I can try uploading new software. I'll do a mindfulness app, whatever it is, but sometimes the hardware overrides that, and sometimes it doesn't. So some of this is about becoming aware of what the hardware is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Horses are a guide to understand nervous systems. Those of you who've been here have really felt that. And those of you who haven't, just look at these horses here. This is Mo and Miela looking out over the volcano. Horses have a visible nervous system response. Humans sometimes shut ourselves down and you don't know what we're feeling inside. If a lion suddenly pops up over the hill, I guarantee you will see a physical reaction in these horses, because the number one thing they want to feel is safe. And if they don't feel safe, they will have a survival response, and you will see and feel their responses. Sounds obvious, but it's actually really helpful, because we see them responding to their nervous system in a way that we've learned to shut down, disconnect from, forget, or avoid. But we see horses doing it, and we understand a bit more that it's natural to do that. So what a horse is going to do, if it feels dangerous, heart rate increases, breathing quickens, you get the adrenaline, cortisol hormones, going to prepare the body for action. And this is Hitana here. She'll see something in the distance, the white horse on the left, and she might move towards it, check it out. What is that? To see if it's a threat. She might immediately run away from it. She might freeze and kind of check out, numb, or she might stay looking, stay on that hyper alert vigilance, not sure what it is, not sure if I should run away, not freezing, but I'm going to constantly keep monitoring it. And this is what you may have heard of: fight, flight, freeze, submit, or shut down, where it all gets too much and I'm just basically completely preparing to die and hoping it's not going to be too painful in a way. But what horses do when it's over is they go back to grazing. So then they can rest, they can connect, they can play, they can look after the young, they can digest their food. I think if I had the slideshow version showing, you'd see this looking all coming in bit by bit, but you just get it all lumped in. So I'm assuming that's the way it's all meant to happen. You're just going to see it all up front. That's what this particular group needs on this Zoom call. So horses are going to have that nervous system response, do something with it, and then shake it off and actually rest and relax again. And this is a healthy nervous system movement. So you've got the gas pedal. What's that? Is it a lion? Do I need to run? I'm going to run. Now I'm safe. I'm going to slow down. Or it's not a lion. It's just a plastic bag. This is a horse. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to relax. So I can speed up and I can relax. Now nothing's happening. So I can really take the foot off everything and just lay down and sleep. You've got activation, something happening, and then you've got settling, stress happening, and then you've got recovery. We need both of those. We need this movement back and forth. We need this kind of healthy interaction. The trouble is when we get stuck in one thing or the other. So we're going to go a little bit more into the whole idea of this fight or flight or freeze or going back to grazing. So I'm going to show you the video again, hopefully, of Fish, and see if you can see what he's doing. When does he scan for danger? When does he realize there's danger? What response does he choose when he sees danger? And then what does he do after the danger is over? Come on, there we go. What did you guys see? Any observations? You feel free to type it in the chat if you don't want to
I don't know where the chat is.
Say again.
I don't see the chat that can you hear me? I thought I was muted.
I did hear you. You don't see
Oh,
the
okay.
chat.
Okay.
Should be down at the bottom.
Oh, I see it now. Do you
You
want me to say something?
you can click on it and chat. But why don't you go ahead? What did you see in the video?
Okay. Well, I saw the horse react to the dog and with a fright and flight, like instantaneous, just like for an instant, right?
Mhm.
And then, oh, I'm okay. The release with a sigh and back to grazing.
Yes. Yes,
All very
absolutely.
quickly, like it was very
Mhm.
quick.
Pretty quickly. Anyone
Yeah.
see anything else?
I saw similar with Fish too on the dog when the horse came closer and was kind of nibbling. I think he maybe reacted to that and kind of was like, oh, what do I do? Is this fight or flight? But then kind of got away a little bit and then Fish went back to, okay, tongue out of my mouth, I'm happy. So I think it was like both of the interplay off each other, but both kind of handling themselves. They needed to, and then like, okay, this is the right way to be with each other right now.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And Alicia said in the chat, a head shake and a snort. Yeah, you saw from Ria that
Mm,
shake off that little interaction of whatever happened.
mm,
Interestingly, Fish stood there for a while she was sniffing, almost in that, what am I going
yeah,
to do with this? Before he had that kind of "Oof,"
yeah.
reaction. But then you see very quickly it's neutral again and everyone's fine. So it's an example of that nervous system kind of what's going to happen. Something happens, we have the reaction, but then we all relax again into peace. So this is the cycle. The green at the bottom. Some of you are familiar with this from us. Some of you may have seen it before, or if not, the green at the bottom is when we feel safe and connected and present in our surroundings. This is called the ventral vagal in the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is where I have access to my brain to think, to problem solve, to find solutions, to relax, to sleep, to digest my food, to hang out with other people. And then something happens, some kind of activation. So I might sense danger and I can either go into the yellow, what's happening on that cusp? Do I need to, like Fish did, fight or flight? Or I can go into the red of actually freeze. That might be my nervous system's default response to freeze or shut down, disappear, go small, hide away from it. That might be my nervous system's response. And you can see the black curve. It actually goes up and then it comes down. As we deactivate something, then we're going back into the green of the nervous system again. So we're shaking it off. So Fish, he's standing there minding his own business, suddenly feels a horse's nose on his back. So he feels that adrenaline, cortisol, something needs to keep me safe here. He has the little reaction, the dog, of flight, with a little snap at her. Maybe I'm not quite fighting, I'm running away. And then he goes back into the green. And this is where we can actually experience the world in our effective place. He needs the yellow or the red, just as we do, to stay alive. So the question is, when do we get stuck there? And why do we get stuck there? So that we're never able to go back to the green. And a lot of the mindfulness practices that we do now, it's more of a big thing. And a lot of time in nature and with horses is about building the muscle to come back again and again and again into the green, to go back to grazing, we call it here, and to get to know what it's like in the green so that I have access to it, not to get rid of the activations, not to get rid of the fight, flight, freeze, shut down responses at all, but to be able to come back to the green and not get stuck in the other places. So let's think of a little personal example for you guys. Maybe think of something that's on your horizon, maybe something coming up today, or an email that you got, or a person that you're sort of it's buzzing in the background, something you have to handle, a decision you have to make, something that you're aware of, in life. I'm not going to ask you what it is, so feel free to pick something vulnerable or sensitive, or and just notice the reaction in your body as you think about that. You might notice you tense up a little. You might notice you start holding your breath. You might notice you're not really listening to what I'm saying. You're thinking about that. You might notice yourself going, nope, not going to think about that. All of these different reactions we have. And that's like on your computer when you've got a tab open in the background and it's using up the battery. All of those things can be there if we haven't gone back to grazing yet about them. And we have them. We all have them. And we talked about this in the last presentation in part 1, that we have a window of tolerance. So inside my window of tolerance, I'm safe, I can be myself, I'm at my most effective and connected. It means that whatever's happening, like my computer not functioning and my slides not working, to be honest, doesn't really surprise me, not the best technological person in the world. It's within my window of tolerance, I can carry on, my nervous system can handle it. If you guys couldn't see the slides at all, and I had to find something to talk about for a while without the slides, that might be outside my window of tolerance, where then I'm finding it hard to talk to you, I'm finding it hard to breathe, I'm noticing my speech spinning up, my brain spinning out, sweating a little bit, whatever, trying to check out a little bit to cope, to not judge. Then I'm outside my window of tolerance. So then I'm really probably in the fight, flight, freeze, shut down area in that particular instance. And it can shift, it can move all the time. But then we can think about what percentage of my life, and you guys can think about it, maybe write it down, share it if you want to, not if you don't. What percentage of my life do I spend inside my window of tolerance, feeling like I can be present with it, I can handle it? Yes, it might be challenging, but it's within the realms of my capacity. And what percentage might I spend? And it'll be different in different areas, in work or in relationships or in friendships, or in social. When am I outside my window of tolerance where I'm really feeling like I'm having to constantly do something or be different in order to feel okay, to feel safe? Just a question. And here we come into a little bit about why we have these survival strategies. And this is where you get it all dumped on the slide rather than coming in bit by bit. But as children, connection is survival. It was very helpful to me when I realized that, because I can look back and think, oh, what's wrong with me? Why wasn't I just fine? I had a roof over my head and food and, but actually we need connection. We need our parents. We need our social communities to support us to survive. It is a survival threat to lose connection. It was as a child. So our nervous systems are trying to keep us connected in order to survive. So of course, in that context, the wiring gets produced based on where I feel connected, or how I tried to feel connected, or how I survived with a lack of connection. And I was a kid. I didn't know any better. I just developed strategies that have got me here today. And frankly, have done a great job adapting. My nervous system has adapted. So your nervous system adapted brilliantly to help you survive your specific environment. And yet now that might be getting in the way. You're in a different place, you're an adult, you're in a different circumstance and situation, but you might still have the hardware or the software of that nervous system from that survival that you had. And for example, smiles and approval from people's faces actually speak to your nervous system and bring a feeling of safety and connection, speaking unconsciously directly to your nervous system. Frowns and disapproval get signaled as a danger threat. It makes sense, it's talking nicely to a baby versus, being stern and cross with a baby. The baby's going to experience this as safety or not safety, same as a horse will. And disconnection is a threat. So what we come on to look at is what was rewarded and what was criticized or judged will be different for each of us. What survival strategies worked in my specific environment or were modeled to me. And every family system has a code, has spoken and unspoken rules. So there'll be some things that are welcomed, work really hard and achieve good grades. And some things that are discouraged. When we have people over, don't speak up, don't say anything, stay quiet. Or give your opinion, express yourself, show there's something about you. It might have been really different. Things that feel safe. Well, it feels safe for me to have an opinion, or it feels unsafe for me to have an opinion. Or with this person, it's safe. With this person, it's not. And our nervous systems are trying to figure that out. Things that risk disconnection, bad behavior. And, a caregiver might then be cross with you, a certain kind, not cleaning your room, or it might not really matter. And there might be still connection offered. So our family systems or our surroundings that we grew up in give us a code of spoken and unspoken rules, and we feel the unspoken rules at a nervous system to nervous system level. Anger is bad, certainly for English people. Don't be angry, or don't have feelings, actually. Keep calm and carry on, keep smiling, don't have emotions, don't cry, don't be sensitive, be polite, sit at the table, don't speak. And worrying is responsible. You have to worry about money, you have to worry about getting a job, you have to worry about how you're behaving. That's a responsible thing to do. Keep everyone else happy. Don't upset everybody. Be the strong one. Don't cry. Achieve more. But don't take up too much space. Don't stand out from the crowd. Don't fail us. Don't disappoint us. I'm talking about some of my personal experiences here. There's lots more. It's not limited to this list. And we learn very early on which parts of ourselves are acceptable and which parts are not. The slightly silly, messy, outgoing, outspoken, questioning part of me wasn't particularly acceptable in a family social situation. So I learned to be quiet and to suppress it. And ultimately, I disconnected from it and didn't even know it was there until I started on a bit more of a self-discovery journey. So it was a bit of a surprise to me that I wasn't just really, really happy pleasing everyone else all the time and ignoring everything that I had going on inside. Because that was how I'd learned to survive. So think about that. What were you told? Again, not to share, but think about it. What were the rules of your family system that perhaps you took in, and perhaps you're still doing them, or perhaps you've done work with them and realize that they don't serve you? I have a quote here from Emily Blowfield. I'm in a constellations training with Seeing with Your Heart, and she said something that really ties into things that we teach, but I hadn't looked at it in this way before. Authenticity versus belonging. She said when authenticity and belonging conflict, most children will choose belonging. So if we think about that, if my family system says don't be yourself to get approval, to be a good girl, to be part of the family, don't be silly, don't be outgoing, don't be messy, you can belong if you're quiet and good and well behaved, I'm going to choose to belong. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to be good and I'm going to be well behaved, even if that doesn't feel authentic at all. So I learned to disconnect from and shut off those authentic parts of myself so that my nervous system gets the safety of belonging. Makes sense, actually. It was a brilliant adaptive survival strategy and incredibly painful because I'm shutting off parts of my authentic self in that context. And well, as we talked about, belonging is survival as children. So we abandon parts of ourselves. Those of you, I know some of you are familiar with internal family systems. We look at different parts of ourselves in that context, different voices, different aspects. There's a part of me that wants to move to Costa Rica, and there's a part of me that wants to stay in London with my family, right? And we disconnect from different parts of ourselves, and that's normal and natural and makes sense. But our nervous system learns this version of me is safe, and this version risks disconnection. So I'm going to get rid of that or suppress it or ignore it. But it is a brilliant adaptation to preserve the connection in order to stay alive. And I like this image. It's two of our rivers here, or streams here that we have. If we think of our nervous system like river rocks, in one example, you've got a big, fast river on the right rushing through, and then in the left, it's a bit more of a smaller, slower, softer river. And our nervous systems are like the river rock. They're going to be shaped by what's coming through them and the water and where they sit in the river and which part gets eroded. Each one is going to have a unique shape. I don't know if you guys know the town mouse and the country mouse story, but there's a mouse that lives in the town, in the real city, and there's a mouse that lives in the country in a little house, and they decide to switch homes. This is the short version. And so the town mouse goes to the country and sits inside terrified because there's an owl and there's a bird and there's the sound of the river and there's chickens and there's grass and there's these terrifying things in the country. And she says to the country mouse, how can you live here? This is a terrifying, dangerous place. And meanwhile, the country mouse is sitting in an apartment in the city, listening to the train and the sirens and the seagulls and the rattling of everything, and is saying, this is a terrifying, dangerous place. Says to the town mouse, how can you live here? Because each of their nervous systems are familiar and comfortable with the environment that they've been in. Not that one's safer or not safer than the other. That doesn't even come into play. What's familiar and what have you learned to adapt to? How is your river flowing? And how are the rocks shaped? And that feels familiar and comfortable to you. And moving outside of that can feel terrifying. Doesn't mean it's bad or good. Just means it's different. So, thinking about that, thinking about where you chose to belong, some of the rules that you might have taken on board, how often you're outside your window of tolerance, how your nervous system architecture is actually doing its job, and how we judge it and criticize it for not being able to cope with what we expect it to cope with, because we're now in a completely different environment and we just expect it to be able to handle that. But actually, what if it's still trying to keep us alive in the experiences that it knows from when we were younger? And the reason for emphasizing this, it's really to say, yeah, my reactions make sense, or my nervous system is trying to help me, or there's a reason that I override myself, or that I get frustrated and angry, or that I stay hypervigilant, or I'm trying to keep everyone happy. There's reasons for that. It was adaptive and it made sense. And so then we can have a bit of compassion for ourselves in that and look at our nervous system like that. And that already is starting the conversation to create trust, self-trust, and safety for ourselves to go, yes, I am having a nervous system reaction and I don't want to be having it, but I understand that it makes sense in the context of what I've experienced. Already everything feels a little bit safer and the nervous system reaction can calm down a little bit before we do anything else. And this is where horses can be amazing because they've stayed connected to themselves. If they have a nervous system response, they listen to it. They listen to their physical bodies, they listen to their senses. They're not identified with anything in particular, I have to be a good girl and therefore my nervous system just needs to keep up, right? They're listening to their senses and their nervous systems to stay alive. It's survival. And they didn't develop the part of the brain that tells them something different. So we start to look at how they trust themselves and listen to themselves, and how they respond to our nervous systems. They can show us, we'll talk a little more about this, what we're actually feeling as well. So a lot of people can look and feel functional even while feeling lost and unsafe. We're going to talk about the different survival responses. So fight. My fight response is because I'm not feeling safe. I'm feeling attacked, for example. My boss is giving me some feedback and I'm taking it personally and I'm feeling attacked. That's where my defensiveness, my anger, even my I have to blame you, you're a bad boss, projection, it's uncomfortable. I feel unsafe and I'm having a fight response because I think I need to protect myself to stay alive. My nervous system treats feedback, thoughts, personal interactions, connection, disconnection, judgment. If my identity is I have to be a high achiever and a performer in my job to stay alive, according to my family rules, then someone threatening that is a survival threat to me because my identity is so formed on that's what gets me safety and connection that I have to fight back at any suggestion that that's not true. For it's an example. And a flight example. Notice I've got pictures in here to balance out the thinking about these reactions. If you look at the horse, this is not a flight reaction. This is a very calming, connecting reaction. But the anxiety, the overthinking, I must do more, I must do this, or I must get away, or I can't think about that right now, head in the sand, or the anxiety. It's this activation energy of worrying because you feel like you need to run to get away from something, or to get to something, or to find something else, or to do something differently in order to stay alive. in that moment. And then there's a freeze reaction, that moment where, you know, someone asks you a question and you just, what's wrong with me? Rabbit in headlights. Like there's paralysis. I'm not speaking up, or I'm just going to not say anything, even if I've got some great opinions, and I'm going to watch everybody else because I'm just not feeling safe enough that my opinion, my personality, my real self or view is going to be well received. It doesn't feel safe. And this can go along with the other one, submit. A lot of horses are in submit. They're just like, do it to me. I'll stay alive. I'll tune you out. I'm not really connected. I'm just doing what I did yesterday because I didn't get killed then. So I'm going to carry on. Same with people pleasing. I'm going to fit in. I'm going to go along. I'm going to prioritize everyone else. Great survival strategy, actually, using connection. But I'm disconnected from myself because ultimately I don't feel safe unless they're happy. That's the trap. Because if they're not happy, I have to people please even more. Because I'm really at some level not feeling safe in my own self unless they're happy. And then shut down, you know, when I have to just watch Netflix. You know, we have a client here and she says, you know, when I'm really, really stressed, I have to watch a movie that I've seen 10 times before because I know how it ends. I know where I'm going to cry. There's no surprises. There's no unexpected sad moment. I know what's going to happen. So I have to watch that because then I can watch it and enjoy it and stay safe. It's our ways of disconnecting from the uncomfortable feelings. We're not going into the green, we're not going into grazing, we're really just tuning out all the bad stuff, you know, and we can use a glass of wine, we can use a bar of chocolate, Netflix. There's lots of ways that we actually do that, just going through the motions, but we're actually in a kind of shutdown. And these can be functional survival states. Again, I'm sharing this because it was really helpful for me to think, I'm like, well, you know, I'm really productive and I get loads done and I must be fine, but doesn't feel amazing, but you know, I'm functioning. We can live in a survival state, a functional survival state. I think I lived a lot of years in a functional freeze. I was going to work, I was doing life, I was looking fine, but ask me what I needed or what I was feeling, zero idea. Because I just disconnected from it because it was painful and I didn't know what to do with it for so many years that it felt a lot better to just completely disconnect from it and do the things that a good girl did to get a good job and a pension, everything else. There's a functional fight, a functional flight. You know, I can constantly be getting frustrated and reactive and traffic, emails, technology problems, constantly reacting and fighting all the time, but doing things and getting through things and thinking I need to do that. I need to push. I need to fix the technology. I need to yell at the traffic. Otherwise I wouldn't get there. Otherwise I'd be late, right? We think we need to do that to survive. Or a functional flight where I'm constantly scanning or overwhelmed or, you know, thinking or restless, like I need to be organizing everything and managing everything and everyone, for example. Or I just need to be somehow not doing that anymore, not doing that anymore, not doing that anymore, because I can't quite find the place of settling and peace and connecting. But I can look and feel quite functional. And thoughts, that's where we go. And that's what we're doing now, to be quite honest with you. I'm talking to you, I'm giving you lots of ideas and you're thinking about it all, right? Which can be helpful, but there's already a stress response happening inside your body before we even notice the thoughts, because they matter. Mindset work is important, thoughts matter, but often the body and the nervous system are reacting before we even notice the thoughts. I was working with a client this morning and she said, I get a churning in my stomach and then my thoughts start worrying about that. Oh, is there something wrong with my stomach? Is it? But the churning in the stomach happened probably from some scanning, some indication of not safety. Something came in that she's not consciously aware of that's letting her know she's not feeling safe. And then the thoughts make up a story about it. So getting to know where's my body, what's my body doing. Here are some examples on the slide of classic, you know, I'm in my stress response, my survival response. When I notice it, before I notice the thoughts, or my thoughts could even be a story, then I can start becoming aware of and listening to my nervous system, which matters in this slide because it's often the first signal. And then we can catch it before the thoughts make up a story about it. You know, thoughts, emotions, perspective, mindfulness, energy. There's all sorts of tools and things that we can do, but it's very hard to think your way out of a nervous system state while you're in it. Because remember, when you're in survival, your brain, your thinking, solution-focused, creative brain is offline, not available to you. You are in live or die, black or white. What do I need to do to survive, essentially, is what your nervous system is looking for. It's not looking for what's this creative and connective outside the box solution that might be available to me. That's not there, that capacity, until we can realize, okay, this is a thought, this is vulnerable, this is a situation. I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to relax my body. I am safe, physically safe where I am right now. My system can settle. Okay, maybe then my brain can come back online and say, what do we need to do with this email, or whatever the situation is. But when I'm just there panicking about the email, I am not in my best place to be able to find that answer. And I love this because my screen looks a bit like this, with post-it notes, right? And we have, not to beat the drum, but the idea is just to get to know and to have compassion for your own nervous system. We have constant stimulation here in the world, with the productivity culture, with overload, constant threats pop up. What's happened in the news? Who's messaged me on Facebook? What's that text message? What did I forget to do? Constant stimulation, traffic. So our nervous system has to work even harder to relax, which is why it gets exhausted, again, to give it some sympathy and understanding. And when do people get to feel like this? This is one of the rocks we have out on the property where, she's just lying here, feeling held, supported on rock, surrounded by jungle and nature and noises. This is refilling the well. This is giving food and energy into the system so that it can handle some of those things, because we can't always just cut them out or avoid them. But we do want to be mindful of treating ourselves with compassion when there is that overload, and making sure we have access to and time in places or experiences that can support our nervous system to refill. And I'm biased, but horses are the best way to do this. And some of you are probably biased too, having been here. But the idea is really building a new nervous system architecture. And one of the interesting things is that we're always searching for this regulated place, for mindfulness, meditation. What's it going to help? Having no thoughts, etc. How do we know what we're looking for? What's that feeling of being in the green, as we call it? Being regulated, being calm and peaceful without stress. We have to know what we're looking for to navigate towards it. If you're going to an address for the first time and you don't know what the house looks like, you don't know what the street looks like, you don't know what the turnoff looks like, it's a lot harder to find than if you've been there before. Same thing with us. So how do we actually build our nervous system architecture to recognize what's it like to feel calm, connected, and safe? And that is one of the things horses can help us do. We can watch them, we can observe them. They actually co-regulate. So their nervous systems and heart rates are pumping out essentially calming vibes to each other and to us when we're around them. They want the herd to be calm, safe, and connected. We talked about this last time. And it can help us. Nature, the sounds of nature, or people say, I just feel better in nature. Sitting by a river, the sounds, the sights, the smells, the feeling on your skin is unconsciously communicating to your nervous system, everything's okay, everything's safe, so that it knows what green is. And when we come here, we consciously focus on that. Let's learn how to feel this, and let's practice being in it, and let's really get to know it. So I'm building my magnet, on my north, on my compass, to navigate back to it, because I know what I'm looking for. So that when I go home and things come up and I go into activation, which I will, A, I notice when I'm activated, and B, I know what I'm looking for and how to get back there. Because you can actually rewire your brain, and you can shape your nervous system reactions and train your thoughts. And I love it because it's empowering. It's not easy, it's not quick, it's not straightforward all the time, but it's possible. And therefore, in my view, worth trying, and worth learning, and worth practicing. So horses help us see nervous systems. And those of you who've been here, this is Eric and this is Minna. And just if you've been here and felt it, take yourself back to the feeling of Minna's chest Mina's head in your chest. I know some of you have. And if not, imagine that. Imagine a big, giant black horse choosing to wander over to you and just rest his nose on your chest and breathe deeply with you. And maybe that thought, a little fear comes up because you're like, big giant horse putting his nose in my chest, not sure about that. Yeah, absolutely. Your nervous system will have a reaction to that. And we get to notice the reaction. So if I have that reaction of like, what on earth are you doing? You're giant. I don't want to get hurt. Mina's response is probably going to be to step back a little bit, move away, maybe raise his head, some kind of reaction that's going to let you know, oh, I saw that, I got that, I felt that. And an opportunity for you then to say, okay, I'm going to take a big, deep breath. I'm going to feel my feet on the ground. I'm going to soften. And then Mina's going to lick and chew, turn his head into you, give you feedback. Yes, that's moving into the green. These are on the right lines. It's about awareness, not judgment. So they're going to respond honestly to what's on the inside of us, not to what we say. Oh, I love horses. Oh, I want to hug a horse. You know, I want the photo with my arms around the horse. But the horse is saying, you're scared of me, and therefore I'm going to take a step back so that you can feel a bit safer, right? And actually then you might even realize, well, actually I'm a bit worried about this in this proximity. And I can say, well, what would help in this moment? What if I came and stood next to you? What if you took a step back? Or what if you took a few deep breaths? We can find then that what's going to help you feel safe in that moment and soften. So you get to listen to yourself. You get to notice what you're feeling and when. And you get to try out different things. And when you feel safe, feel green, feel open to connection, really tune into yourself, listen to yourself, come back to yourself, then the horse will respond to that. They might yawn, they might lay down, they might move in. Some kind of behavior that your system is going to take in as feedback in a way that a human saying, yeah, well done, good job. You're like, yeah, but maybe they were just saying that to be nice. A horse doesn't do that. So their feedback really gets taken in and believed and trusted because, you know, he's a free being that can run away. He can move away. He can walk towards. He's choosing based on his senses. It's been around 56 million years to lean in or to support what you're going through. Your system goes, oh, okay, that's what it is. That's when I'm there. That's what I feel. So it says on the bottom here, the horses help us recognize the feeling of coming back to ourselves. Oh, this is when I'm really in my safe, calm, regulated state. Okay, I'm going to get to know that. Thank you for the feedback. It's like taking your nervous system to the gym. So here's a little process. A recent client, she said I could share these about how horses really help us see nervous systems. And so you look at this lady standing here with Miela and look at Miela over there. Her head's down and relaxed and she's looking at the lady. Look at the lady's body language. Hands on her hips, you know, standing up straight, a little bit unsure. You know, really what's happening, not quite sure, perhaps fearful, perhaps judging herself. And Miela's keeping her distance. And throughout the week, she was here with us for a week. Then let me show you this video. The whole herd showed up in her second horse experience to give her a sense of the feeling of what's it like to stand in a group of horses, to be co-regulated, to find your green, to find this sense of relaxation. I'll try and play you the video. So everyone's super relaxed, just standing there, holding space. And she's standing in the circle, feeling it, absorbing it, tuning in, starting to get to know it. And then this was her next horse session with Miela. And look at her face. Look at the client's face. I don't know if you can see. The big giant grin on her face because Miela's rolling it off like right in front of her. You know, it's safe to be vulnerable. It's safe to express yourself. It's safe to feel okay. And the client's like this. It was a little blurry. You couldn't really see. But it's kind of like finding joy, letting go of some of that excess. And we've figured out what green can feel like. And now we can do it, in a bit more of a free and relaxed sense, and different climb. But then it moves into moments of awe and wonder. Again, you're standing outside your room, and Galan comes up, and there's this big giant presence, and he's hanging out with you, and there's just this awe and wonder of his presence deep in the green, of that connection and magic and feeling safe and connected. And then I think you might recognize yourself in this one. Just standing together, completely safe, completely connected, nowhere to be, nothing to do, sharing space, sharing time in your body. Let's just be here. Let's absorb this. Let's experience this in a way that your body can take in, not just your brain. This experiential feeling of, I know what I'm looking for, and how do I really take that in as my roadmap and my compass. So awareness of what I'm feeling, that we support you with and ask you about and help you tune into, because the horses are magnifying it and showing it. We've got a real life classroom, nature's classroom. And then this roadmap, what am I looking for? Where am I going? And then this compass within you, your personal nervous system, telling you this is what I feel like. With that self-awareness, self-trust, I'm listening to myself with compassion, because the goal is not perfection. There's no such thing in this context, because the goal is knowing how to come back to yourself again and again. Because we want the activations, we want the survival responses, we want to stay alive, we want to be able to come back, and we want to grow our window of tolerance for what is a survival threat and what is not a survival threat. So why Tula Vida helps? Well, modern life does make regulation harder. I experience that every time I go back to London and I'm sitting in my friend's apartment with all the noises, and I'm like, wow, how do you regulate yourself here? She's like, right? And you can work harder and you can find tools. But here, and a lot of people say this, you arrive and nature is just here, cueing safety biologically without you having to try to do a breathing exercise or to go to a yoga class. You're just feeling it. Your green space, open views, natural sounds, horses, the natural rhythm. Even we get up with the light, we wake up naturally without an alarm, go to bed as it gets dark. We've had 6 million years of evolution, really, of being in tune with the rhythms of nature. So your body knows what to do when it's given the right conditions, and it can take you there. And here, without the human noise, the urgency, the stimulation, your system remembers what to do. And it shows you, I can find this. People are often shocked. I just feel better just by being here. We haven't even done anything yet. It's like, yeah, because my system knows this is a place it can actually experience the green. And we had monkeys come yesterday. That's why they're in the slide. The white-faced monkeys is always exciting. I've lived in Costa Rica 11 years and I still get super excited when I see monkeys. But it's like stepping back in time, really simplifying things actually to what's important, out with the elements, and it's comfortable and clean and you're eating well and sleeping and supported in a lot of ways. But there isn't much else other than the nature, the experiences, the horses, the chance to be with yourself and let the land actually show you and support you what it's teaching. I'm doing a PowerPoint now, but we don't spend hours sitting around doing PowerPoints in hotel rooms with fluorescent lights. We're out in a field seeing what happens. And that's the experiential classroom. And the rooms are designed with nervous systems in mind. We just had a photographer come in and do pictures. It's funny, I'm just looking at this picture that's in here now, and I think I'm out there looking at my phone. That's really not a great photo for this slide, is it? That's funny. But everything's designed with that idea of how can we support our nervous systems? How can we, it's not about roughing it. It's about going out and having the experiences and letting yourself do that, because you've also got your safe human retreat space to come back to and to relax into that's going to support you. And then taking it home. So the horses will help you recognize the feeling. And then the land is going to support you to find the feeling. And that becomes your compass. So yes, there's tools or there's insights or there's awareness, but really it's about getting to know that place, that feeling, so that you can find your way back to it after you leave. When you get home, you can find the things that might work for you to take you back to that place. Because people, the idea is people leaving more themselves, really, not changing because there's nothing wrong with you, not fixing because you're not broken. It's how to tune in and build trust and connection with me as me, and to be more me in a way that feels safe and calm and connected to me. Because a resilient nervous system, we talk about resilient, flexible nervous systems, they're not ones that don't get activated. You know, they're ones that know how to come back again and again and to support us to actually live as ourselves. So I did a lot of talking at you, with you. Any questions about any of that? Observations, thoughts, comments? I'm going to talk a little about what retreats we have coming up, and I'm going to see if there's some horses outside. I'm hoping they are, but first I just want to check in to see if anyone has anything, and feel free to type it in the chat or to unmute yourself. Monica.
I just took myself down about 10 notches in this hour with you. I mean, just felt myself getting calmer and more relaxed, and I almost fell asleep actually. My eyes started to close. Just seeing you and seeing that place again and listening to you kind of reinforce the things that I learned there was marvelous.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes. And I'm happy to hear that. And it makes an important point. So we don't have to go to Costa Rica all the time to recreate the feeling. Tuning in with a person, with a memory, with an image, with the ideas is going to help you access that feeling again and recreate that feeling again.
Mhm.
So yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alicia said, I enjoyed seeing all of the photos and can't wait to visit. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Alicia.
Yes, I agree. Just seeing the photos just takes me back and immediately calms me without having to try. It's amazing how I think for me realizing so much being in the green when I was at Tula Vida, it just is like, oh, there I am. And I love that. And that just it reinforces the whole messaging. So this was really nice to visit again about the nervous system. I feel like it just keeps deepening it, like hitting in new layers for me.
Yeah, and strengthening that muscle, right?
Yeah.
Again and again.
Yes.
We don't just learn it and know it and that's it. We can lift
Yes.
50 pounds. It's like reps in the gym.
Totally.
Beautiful. Okay. I don't see anyone
Mm.
else unless someone.
I have something I'm wondering
Yeah,
about, Sally.
please.
Um, when you talked about, because it looks absolutely amazing, and you talked about bringing it home, when we're back home, and um, for those of you, I have not been there, but I am going. Um, how, in the midst of all the chaos and, noise back home, do we, how does our system remember to come back down from because of the experience we've had?
It's a great question. And I wonder if Monica or Sherry or Liza have any comments on that.
I I I can still come back to Tula Vida. Like often when I go to sleep at night or when I'm laying in bed at night, I'll just tell myself if something's bugging me, I'll just say, go to the horses. And I'll start thinking about my experience there with them. And it's so calming. It does come back to you if you just call on it a little bit, which was really surprising because I'm not kind of I don't consider myself super spiritual, and yet I think I probably am, but I, it just does come back because it's
Thank
such a
you.
precious, momentous experience. It doesn't go away. That's my finding anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. It's, compared to, I would think even other retreats that I've done and really special places, like it just landed, I think, so deep. And I think it's just because of the design of Tula Vida and the retreats, whatever the topic of the one you're doing, or whether it's like an individualized one. It's just that to really land in your nervous system, not just your mind, or like, okay, we do a retreat and we learn things and do activities. Like I think because it all connects, like the food, the land that I just, yeah, it's like very similar, like bed at night, or if I'm having a hard time, oh, let me think of the horses. Like it doesn't come of, let me do my breathing, let me do this, like let me just remember. And it does. And I find that that has happened with me more than any other experience I've had, even other powerful ones. It is just different, but it does stay with you. Hmm.
You're
Yeah.
going to have a wonderful time. You're going to have a wonderful experience, really.
Oh, I can't wait.
I think one of the thank you, Sherry and Monica, for that. And I think one of the things that supports it is it's so experiential, and your cells and your nervous system are taking it in. And what we invite or encourage is to connect that with the conscious mind,
Hmm.
so that when we remember to do it, and that is a practice of a training ourselves too, we have something to go to or somewhere to go to, rather than I remember to do it and now I need to try to do it to get there. And then sometimes we can give up, or we can think it's too hard, or we don't put in the time and the effort. It's like giving you a place to go, because a memory, a nervous system can relax or tune back in to a physical experiential memory. Like we may not remember someone's name or even their face, but we'll remember how we felt around them and their vibe.
Mhm.
And it's a similar kind of thing. We remember that at a different level in a different place. So it's not saying you suddenly go home and you've just got access to all this Zen and everything's easy. It's more like you have a paddock with horses in it, in your memory and in your nervous system and in your mind, that you can choose to go to and access when you need. And that makes a big difference, because we're like refilling the well in a sense. We're
Mhm.
not just giving out water all the time. We actually have a way and a resource and a well to refill. And then every time we do that, we're actually strengthening our capacity to be able to do that in different ways without the horses, or just, even without thinking about it. We're like building the neural pathways and the muscles to do it more in our lives, so that it becomes more a habit, it becomes more a road we use. And then you join webinars like this so that you can see the horses and see the pictures and,
Yeah.
tune in and find other things. Then people start to say, oh, I found I drove to my friend's house and they have a farm and apparently they have horses. I never knew they had horses. And now the horses came to the gate and now I see the horses every day, and I found my little check-in and I go and stroke a horse every day that I never even knew was there. Things show up and come in your own life that you're like, oh, here are resources that now I recognize as resources. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to show you a slide with some of the things we have coming up. Some of new things that we're organizing and coming in. We have personal retreat, which is a design your own, really. We have certain weeks throughout the year where you can come and stay a number of nights and do some horse experiences and other experiences that you want to yourself. And we have our group retreats that are 4 or 6 nights long that are run at various times throughout the year. We have a long-term stay in December coming, which is very exciting. And our next retreat coming up is the first week of September. We have a group, Abby Neeson and Lynn Reed, who work with horses and do It's really a collaboration. We'll be doing group experiences with horses for their retreat. We have a leadership, embodied leadership, it's a 3-day retreat in October, which we're really excited about. So that's going to be about leaning into your leadership presence, exploring your presence and your impact from the point of view of how do you show up and what's your influence, whatever walk of life that you're in. That's going to be really powerful. We have someone coming in November to teach her healing horse herd method, which is very aligned with our method. She does a certification program. We have a beach ride in January. Some of you have been on the beach ride. Some of you are coming on the beach ride. Some of you might want to come on the beach ride. It is really with our friends' horses. We go up to the coast and hang out with horses on the beach and ride horses on the beach, which is paradise. We have an internal family systems with horses retreat happening. That's a modality. If you know it, you know it. If not, ask me about it. And we have a systemic constellations with horses retreat. So that's with Seeing with Your Heart. Dan and Emily, Eric and I, they came last year for a retreat in February, and it is fantastic. Really incredible. They're incredible teachers, and they do systemic constellations. Again, ask me about it if you haven't heard about it, but that's going to be a really powerful experience with them. We have Wild Within in March. Deborah Hanlon, she's a psychic medium, and she is bringing a group there to do a 5-day retreat with the horses. We have Heart Frequency Healing with Horses. Anna Marie, she does work in the US, her version of Reiki with horses and teaching people to do that. We have a training on nervous systems with the Polyvagal Equine Institute in June. That's an advanced training for practitioners. So I'll be doing a deeper dive. I'll share it all in a webinar afterwards. We have a somatic nature-based retreat that gives continuing education for therapists. Melissa Rosinski is a therapist. This will be her 3rd year. She just came in July. That was amazing. We have Anna Twinney. Anyone interested who's a horse person? She is just an incredible Mustang trainer, horse whisperer. And we just had a retreat with her last week, and she's coming back. She's doing a 2-day clinic and a week-long retreat. And I'm planning a whales and horses retreat that I don't have any details on yet. But if you love whales and love horses and we're planning to do a few days here with the horses and then a few days at the beach with the whales and explore that connection. We have a retreat in October called Pathway to Peace. That's going to be doing emotion code, body code, energy code. Monica's a spiritual counselor and Gigi's a practitioner in the others. So we're going to be weaving together really cool, different, for the spiritually curious people, as Monica put it, to do a little taster in a bunch of different areas for that retreat. That's going to be really cool. And then we've got some other things in the planning that I listed at the bottom, people that we're talking to about bringing their gifts and their experiences to co-host retreats with us. We love collaborating and learning and creating things like that. So putting that on the radar. And yeah, if you're curious about anything, you can book a call with me and get in touch with me, because I'm sure the horses are already talking to you, whether you've been here yet or not. This is Bubba, one of our newest horses, who's very settling in. Oh, and a Q&A, I wrote on here. I had somebody book a call with me. I love this. And one of her key questions was, do we serve coffee? Because she said she was looking at sort of healthy, restful, nourishing retreats in Costa Rica. And she said in all of them, she was reading that they didn't serve coffee because that was better for the body. So she was slightly sort of, I have to have a retreat where they serve coffee. So anyway, we do serve coffee, just to answer that question. But yeah, any other questions? I think I already asked you guys if you had questions. So I do not know if anyone, so to be in full transparency, we're working on the barn outside here because the roof started falling in. So we actually started rebuilding the roof of the barn, which means we can't have the horses around while we're working on the barn. So normally they're kind of wandering all around and they're outside the door, but actually they're not at the moment. They're in a different field that doesn't have Wi-Fi. So I asked for Nora or Eric, somebody, please can you bring horses to be outside the door for after my call? And I don't know whether they are or not. So I'm going to transfer to my phone. Okay, this is Beauty.
Beauty.
Oh, beauty.
Walked over and she looked at me, and so I paused, and then she relaxed and she looked over again. So I offered her my hand, and as you can see, she's pretty engaged with me and with us. And actually, in the constellations training that we're part of, we have the horses on Zoom in the constellations a lot, particularly Beauty. She's licking and chewing, which is a sign of acknowledging or agreeing or approving of something I'm saying. Here's a yawn and a big nervous
Oh,
communication. As I'm talking about the constellations training, that's really interesting to me. Beauty's really on video, very involved in the constellations online. She can communicate her presence online and be involved in the energy fields and the work that we're doing, the workshops online. And as I'm just talking about that and saying she can be very engaged with you here, even though it's through the phone, she's yawning, she's licking and chewing, she's communicating in horse speak, agreement, or that feels better. It's a nervous system shift. And there she is again. Look at that. And actually, because we've been working on the barn so much here, I haven't been able to get horses into those classes on Zoom. So I'm treating this as communication that BT wants to be back on the call. So we're here now. So you guys can say,
Sally, we can't really hear you. Can you stick your face closer to the mic?
yes, thank you for the
Oh,
feedback.
perfect. Thank you.
Headphones on, but I can speak right into the mic. So here she is yawning, really reacting to me coming over and you guys being here. So you can, we try not to interpret the behavior and say for sure what it is, but definitely I came over with all of your energy on this phone on the call, and she reacted by licking and chewing, yawning, turning her head towards us. I believe interacting with all of you. And so looking at her face, notice what comes up for you. Any thoughts pop in, any sensations or emotions. And she can work with multiple people at the same time also. Closing her eye, shaking her head a little bit. And I'm looking around the whole upper herd. This herd is here, and I'm constantly, like when you're here in present, we're looking at the horse's reaction, to see what communication, what interaction there might be. And I can see a horse who's looking at me over here, which doesn't surprise me. Even Liza's on the call. This is Hitana, who is in a stall because she's had an eye abscess. In a darkened stall to protect her eyes, but she was just looking underneath the gate at us, and I got the sense that it was saying, come over and check in with me. Her eye is doing much better. She's now out at night, we'll be pleased to hear. But she is inside and out of the glare. And here she's lowering her head, checking in. Let me see how she's looking under the black tarp. That's what she was doing before. So it seemed to me very much like an engagement with me and with us to say, come over here and check in or whatever. And horses, so she's eating, we talk about going back to grazing. So she's grazing, metaphorically, with her hay, which is showing a regulated nervous system, keeping her system regulated, but she's also able to be very present with us and connect in with us. So there's the head down, the relaxation, the deep look into the camera. Whatever her communication is for you. And then over here, okay. Oh, of course. I'm like looking for who's looking at me. There's Susie. Susie's very muddy. But I spotted a little face peeking over. Look at Roncador there. And I was like, Roncador's very keen. And then I realized she's on the call. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense too. I'm just squeezing past Susie to go and see Roncador. Buddy. So again, licking and chewing as I come over. Licking and chewing is a positive feedback sign. They'll do that when they feel good about something. And me coming over, and he's very much engaging, as you can see with the camera here, checking in with his friends, you guys. And then over here we have, oh, he doesn't want me to go. He just touched my hand and said, come back to me for a moment. Someone wasn't finished with him. I'm guessing he picked up that feedback. So take a breath with the roncador. Okay. And here we have Cosmo. Again, calling me over. And Imperio. Look at these two. And then Minna's right here as well. I can get the three of them feeling this kind of peace. They're standing here, hanging out, munching hay, or just hanging out. And Minna's licking and chewing now too. Hi, buddy. No, it's friends. And without needing to know how or why, and there are explanations, but they can definitely feel you through the phone. It's not just, we've had so many experiences that we know it's not just imagination. They're actually able to connect through the phone as well. Here's Galan sleeping. And Ronco.
Hi, Roncador. Hi, Ronco. Ronco, this is my cat. Oh, that's funny. My cat's touching the screen. He knows Ronco.
There we go. Yeah, he's touching it now too.
Aw.
Yeah, everyone else is doing really well. Beauty, Susie. Everyone's looking nice and muddy. I always like to see a nice, happy, muddy horse.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining, everybody.